I felt like there was something seriously wrong. They said these weren't human doctors. This was an alien face.
I just saw this large head hovering over top of me.
In the annals of our ever-changing world exist individuals who have been shrouded in mystery, exhibiting behaviors, abilities, or physical characteristics that have led others to question their true nature.
My father is not a human father. My father is a member of the evolutionary level above human.
These are not just regular humans, but people labeled as aliens due to their extraordinary talents, unusual appearance, or unexplained origins. Their lifestyles have led to the question, do aliens really exist in our midst? Join us as we delve into the fascinating stories of terrifying people who claim to be from space, exploring the intriguing circumstances that have sparked speculation and debate about their possible extraterrestrial connections. Starting with Mark Zuckerberg. Maybe all you see when you look at Mark is the CEO of Facebook. Well, the majority of netizens believe he is an alien. Although Mark has always been known as extraordinary with his inventions and all, he was not always seen as an alien. It all started when Mark had to go before the US Congress to testify about the social media platform's possible role in Russian meddling in the 2016 US presidential election. Actually, Mark kind of looked more unusual than usual. Looking at him from different angles, his eyes looked widened, bulging, and vacant. And just like that, rumors began doing the rounds that he wore contact lenses to hide his yellow lizard pupils. It was a short walk from there to people speculating that Mark Zuckerberg was an alien who came here to destroy the planet. While some believed that he might have applied certain makeup to change his looks, some said he must be a bot, judging by the blank, surprised look on his face throughout the hearing. While Mark Zuckerberg has only been perceived to be an alien for his looks, this next person openly admitted his otherworldly origin. Elon Musk. Who else would you have imagined if not the most passionate human about space? Elon Musk has dedicated his years to inventions for our world, and in the same sphere, space. The SpaceX CEO's ambition has successfully sparked controversies surrounding his origin to the point that he was asked about rumors of his extraterrestrial origins at a Viva Tech event in Paris. Elon Musk answered, "I am an alien. Yeah, I keep saying I'm an alien, but nobody believes me." Well, the netizens say, "We believe you, because why else should he be passionate about taking humans to Mars soon?" Still, the same man mentions how robots will take over the world in the future, affirming that humans will no longer have jobs. Now, the question has shifted from whether Elon Musk is an alien to whether he has come to help our planet or destroy it. Elon Musk is well known for cooking different stuff for our consumption offline and online, but have you ever heard about the Tor Man? Real or fake, the story goes. On a hot summer day in July 1954, a man arrived at Haneda Airport in Tokyo. He looked as normal as anyone would, Caucasian, bearded, and wearing a suit. He spoke a bit of French and Japanese, so there was nothing out of the ordinary until he handed over his passport. Even the passport looked normal, except for one oddity. It was issued in the country of Taured. As far as the immigration officers at Haneda Airport were aware, Taured was not a country that existed anywhere on Earth. So where exactly did this man come from? They confronted the man, who immediately got angry and frustrated. He insisted to them that Taured did exist and had for nearly 1,000 years. Everything about this man points to him being a con artist. Therefore, the officers put him up at a nearby hotel for the night while they conducted a more thorough investigation. Outside the man's room were two officers who were to make sure that he didn't escape. However, when the next morning came, the officers went in to speak with the man, but he had vanished without a trace. While some have speculated that it was a hoax, the majority believes that the Tor Man was an alien who mistakenly crossed into our planet and went back to his. But one question though, are aliens not supposed to have distinctive features? The type that was described by Travis Walton. He actually didn't come from space, but he claimed to have been abducted by a flying saucer. Back in November 1975 in the mountains of Arizona, Travis, together with 6 of his co-workers, were there going about their business. Suddenly, they saw a bright light in the sky and a golden disc hovering 20 feet up. It was approximately 10 feet thick and 20 feet in diameter. When Travis left the truck to investigate the metallic saucer, he was lifted into the air and went missing for 5 days. A search team went to work in search of Travis, but he was not seen until November 12, 1975, when he reappeared on the side of the highway. When Travis was asked about his whereabouts, he claimed that he lost consciousness when struck by a beam of light and that he awoke in a hospital-like room, being observed by 3 short, bald creatures. He says that he fought with them until a human wearing a helmet led him to another room where he blacked out as 3 other humans put a clear plastic mask over his face. Travis claimed that he remembered nothing else until he found himself walking along a highway 5 days later, with the flying saucer departing above him. This story of abduction made some speculate that Travis probably had alien origins, while some didn't believe it, despite Travis and the 6 co-workers passing polygraph tests. But while people perceive Travis to be an alien, this next person believes he indeed has an extraterrestrial origin: Tom Reed. Although Tom Reed claimed to have had alien encounters since he was a kid, he only became prominent in the 2000s. And the difference in this particular case is that Tom wasn't alone in the experience, but with his family members. Tom claimed that during a family trip to a rural area in Massachusetts, he and his family encountered a large glowing object in the sky. But that was not the first time, according to Tom. In September 1966, Tom and his brother Matt were allegedly sitting in their family home on Boardman Street one evening when their first experience with extraterrestrial life occurred. Tom, who was 6 at the time, recalled flashes of light emitting from the frisbee-shaped object that landed in their yard. It felt like the pressure in the house changed before the brothers inexplicably found themselves on the other end of their property, face to face with beings not of this planet. After that, they also claimed that they had subsequent encounters that happened in 1967 and 1969, while the 4th encounter took place in 2009 in Brownsburg. The Reeds' encounter wasn't the only reason they were believed to be from space, but also their common rhesus negative blood group. According to Matt Reed, it is not a coincidence that they all had the negative rhesus, but they are indeed connected to the aliens. He said, "We're adamant our grandma knew something," stating that their grandmother intentionally hid the truth from them. Well, that would mean that they must have lost their memories about their past life if all they claimed was true. But one person who didn't forget his past life is Boris Kiririnovich. Unlike many on this list, Boris isn't that old. He was born on January 11, 1996 to Russian parents, but his growth and development were exceptional. According to his mother, he started speaking when he was just a few months old and was able to read and draw when was just 18 months old. As he grew up and started school, Boris's teachers were also reportedly amazed at his ability to read and his impressive memory. But while we have seen exceptional kids like this a few times, what set Boris apart was his knowledge about Mars, space, and aliens. According to his mother, nobody taught him about space when he was a child, which was why they were all amazed about him giving detailed information about space. Boris, who calls himself an indigo child, soon started to claim to have been a pilot on Mars before he was reborn on Earth. At just age 11, Boris made the headlines when he reportedly issued warnings in a video which quickly went viral. He also met with scientists who were left baffled by his knowledge of the planetary system at such a young age. According to Boris, he and his species were wiped out after a nuclear conflict broke out on Mars thousands of years ago, and feared that someday the Earth might suffer from the same fate. This warning that he gave is the mission Boris allegedly came to Earth to carry out. And while his claims sound bizarre, his intelligence has left many researchers impressed and left a lot of people to believe that he was truly from space. That sounded like a one-time trip from one planet to another, but guess who claimed her home was on another planet? Elizabeth Clara. Just like the Reed family, the Clara family also claimed a joint alien encounter. But of all, Elizabeth's personal encounter story stood out. When she was just 7, she claimed to have had her first UFO encounter with her older sister. It happened while they were feeding their Celium puppies outside the farmhouse when a silver disc bathed in a pearly luster swooped over them. Simultaneously, a giant, orange-red and cratered planetoid was observed orbiting and rotating high in the atmosphere. After a while, the disc rushed to meet it, pacing and guiding it northwards, while the planetoid left a smoke trail in its wake. Since then, Elizabeth claimed different encounters with aliens. One of the biggest, however, was meeting with an alien who identified himself as Akon after she deliberately visited a place known for alien activities. At first, a barrier of heat that emanated from Akon's ship prevented her from approaching before his scout ship departed. However, on April 7, 1956, she visited the site again, and this time she met with Akon again, who took her aboard his scout ship of about 60 feet in diameter. Allegedly, during the encounter, Akon and Elizabeth exchanged kisses, after which Aonan revealed that Elizabeth was a reincarnated Venusian and his long-lost soulmate. He further explained that they occasionally took Earth women as partners, as the offspring strengthened their race with an infusion of new blood. Also, he mentioned that several Venusians were surreptitiously living among human beings today. Elizabeth claimed that Aonan presented her with a silver ring that enhanced their telepathic connection and that their love was consummated, resulting in her getting pregnant. On Akon's planet, called Maton, Elizabeth allegedly gave birth to a son who stayed behind to be educated, while Elizabeth reluctantly came back to Earth. While all that Elizabeth was able to present were stories, the next person showed evidence. Nina Kuligina, you may not have heard this name anywhere, but during the 1960s, it was a name heard often in the U.S. defense and intelligence community. Nina had psychokinetic powers that prompted the U.S. to not only engage the USSR in a nuclear Cold War, but also a psychic Cold War, a war that many contend continues to this day. Nina Kuligina was born July 30th, 1926 in Leningrad, and when she was only 14, she joined the Red Army during World War II, and during the siege of Leningrad, she served as a radio operator in a tank. At some point in the battle, Nina was severely injured by artillery fire, but she recovered quickly, surprisingly. However, she came to the attention of the public while recovering from a nervous breakdown in a hospital, possibly post-traumatic war syndrome. During this time, Nina spent a lot of time sewing, and one day while she was at it, attending doctors noticed that she was able to reach into her sewing basket and choose a color of thread without looking at it. A Russian scientist then approached Nina for evaluation, and later a local parapsychologist asked her to perform various experiments. The reported results of the tests were astounding, as they showed she could see colors with her fingertips, and she could heal wounds simply by holding her hand above them. But when she was tested for psychokinesis, the results were apparently so remarkable that for many years she was required to hide her true identity and use the pseudonym Nelia Mikhailova. Nina claimed that she inherited her superpowers from her mother, but many have speculated that she was an alien. Unfortunately, she allegedly died due to health conditions that resulted from using too much of her powers. Betty and Barney Hills. This American couple claimed that they had an encounter with aliens, and it was a rough one. According to the story, in September 1961, Barney and Betty Hill had taken a belated honeymoon trip and were on their way to New Hampshire from Montreal on what should have been an uneventful drive. Just as they were passing Lancaster on US Route 3, Betty noticed a bright light in the sky. The couple didn't pay much attention to it until the light seemed to follow them, getting closer and closer. Betty had a look through binoculars and described what she saw as a spinning disc in the air. At first, she dismissed this as an imaginative thought, but when the light appeared to hover over them, Barney stopped the car, grabbed a gun from beneath the seat, got out, and pointed the binoculars at the strange light. Indeed, he saw a giant spinning disc, but more than that, through its windows, some sort of beings dressed in uniforms were staring back at him. But suddenly, as he tried to raise his hand with the gun, he found that he couldn't. He panicked, ran back to the car, and the couple took off down the road. As they later recounted, a drowsiness overtook them, and by the time it passed, they had traveled miles without any memory of having done so. Once home, they realized that the trip had taken 2 hours longer than it should have, and the two of them looked rough. While they couldn't remember what had happened to them, Betty claimed she started having dreams about strange creatures, ordering her and Barney to enter a room where experiments would be conducted on them. This experience, however, has made headlines with people doubting the credibility of the couple's story. Vinnie O. So many people take pride in having encounters with otherworldly creatures, but in Vinnie's case, he wants to become one so badly. Biologically, Vinnie O is a man from Los Angeles, California. However, he suddenly thought of changing his looks and identity not to look more like a specific human, but to look like an alien. In the US, he has spent 40,000 pounds on plastic surgery to become an alien. He has gone through 110 procedures to transform into a genderless extraterrestrial being, saying he wants to be a hybrid, not male or female. Vinnie started with lip fillers at the age of 17 and has since had 2 rhinoplasties and multiple cheek and brow bone fillers. He said his motivation came from him looking into the mirror and seeing that he looks like a Martian because he has a really big head and no eyebrows. For that, he believes he's connected to Mars and wears large blackened contact lenses and alien-like talons and dyes his hair in unusual colors. Now you just have to look at Vinnie once and an alien comes to mind. Another person who is gradually turning into an alien is Grimes. Yes, Elon Musk's ex-girlfriend. Grimes has spoken about her connections with the other world severally and is gradually modifying her body to look like an alien. Recently, she got a new white ink tattoo, which she called Alien Scars. And by looking at it, you can tell it sure looks like an alien mark. Along with the new tattoo, which appears to be a phrase in an extraterrestrial language, Grimes also rocked a blush-heavy makeup look complete with light green contacts at the time. Tattoos aren't the only body modification on Grimes's radar. She also expressed interest in elf ear mods, a desire that Elon Musk expressed his distaste for on Twitter. You see, this further fueled the speculations that Elon Musk is an alien, considering the type of bond he shared with Grimes. But Elon Musk's comments on Grimes' body modifications have revealed he isn't a fan of whatever she's into. However, Grimes has since put herself on the list of people who are seen as aliens or connected to them. Before we go on, let's discuss our subscribers' pick. One thing that is common to alien encounters as we discuss terrifying people who claim to be from space is the lack of evidence to back them up. First off, you wouldn't find yourself before creatures that look like these ones on the screen and think about taking pictures. And secondly, aliens have never seemed that patient to pose for photographs. But in this case, they seemed extremely patient. This picture was allegedly found in a man's locker after he died, and the only explanation given had been that he had a secret connection with aliens and secretly took their pictures as evidence. This man had lived the most quiet life that you can ever imagine, so no one knew about his secret until a few years after his death. To avoid media attention, his family has refused to speak about it or grant any form of interview. However, there have been speculations about the government covering up the story for unknown reasons. While this story didn't make it to the public, one case that refused to be buried is the story of Valiant Thor. Before we go into Thor's story, know that the primary and only source is a book published in 1967 called Stranger at the Pentagon by Frank E. Stranges, a Christian evangelical minister, ufologist, author, and founder of the National Investigations Committee on Unidentified Flying Objects. According to him, it all happened in the 1950s when an alien from Venus, who was named Valiant Thor, landed on Earth in a spacecraft in a city on the Potomac River, a stone's throw from Washington, D.C. Thor was described as looking like an alien, but handsome at the same time. Seeing that he looked like someone from space, he was accompanied by police officers to the Pentagon, where he requested to speak to President Dwight D. Eisenhower. Allegedly, Thor claimed he visited the Earth with advanced technical knowledge to promote peace and a higher level of spiritual enlightenment, and to warn against the dangers of nuclear weapons, poverty, and environmental destruction. Since the release of Strange's book, many have believed in the story and have said that Valiant Thor was a man from space. Not to be a killjoy, but let's forget about this otherworldly being and talk about where Stranges claimed he came from. Venus. This is a planet between 25 and 161 million miles from Earth, depending on the orbital cycle. But that's not even the issue. Venus is absolutely and entirely inhospitable. The mean temperature is over 460 degrees Celsius and has the densest atmosphere of all the planets in the solar system. The atmosphere is mostly carbon dioxide, and the entire planet is covered in a thick cloud of sulfuric acid. So, can a living thing really live there? Next is Calvin Parker. When Calvin Parker was just 19, he and co-worker Charles Hickson were fishing from a pier on the Pascagoula River near Pascagoula on the night of October 11, 1973, when he noticed blue light reflecting off the water. Parker said at first he thought it was coming from law enforcement officers coming to tell them to leave the property. Then he looked up and saw a football-shaped craft that he estimated was 80 feet long, with blinding light coming from it. He said it was hovering, and a hissing sound was coming from it. Parker said he and his friend were levitated into the craft by 3 aliens, with hands like crab claws, examined by something that looked like a large eye, and then they were returned to the riverbank. Parker and his co-worker reported the incident to law enforcement, and as the news spread around the world, their lives changed. Hickson, who died in 2011 at the age of 80, was very public about the incident, while Parker didn't embrace the attention. In the years that followed, Parker changed jobs and relocated to other towns when people didn't realize who he was, all because he didn't want to discuss the incident anymore. However, his actions made some believe his story because he didn't do it for clout or financial gain. If Parker's story was true, it means the aliens probably didn't like him to have conversations with him the way they did with Alex Collier. Alex was a former U.S. Army helicopter pilot who made astonishing claims about a long stay on an alien mothership. According to Alex, he was with the aliens for 92 days and had a deep conversation with them. After his alleged return, he mentioned that humanity would soon uncover ancient alien ruins scattered across the universe, an insight gained from extraterrestrial beings. He alleged that he gained all of this when he was taken aboard the alien spaceship and equipped with a special belt to facilitate communication for 3 months. The reported encounter transpired while Alex was playing hide-and-seek in a cornfield, later finding himself aboard the alien craft upon waking up. During their conversation, he learned that conventional science only acknowledges approximately 100 billion galaxies, whereas the Andromedians, as per Alex, suggests there are 100 trillion galaxies, all potentially harboring life. This perspective expands the notion of humanity's place in the vast cosmos, implying a plethora of civilizations awaiting discovery. Intriguingly, Alex claims that during his discussions with the extraterrestrial beings, they suggested a stark disparity between perceived and actual human technological prowess. He quoted the aliens as asserting that the United States Army possesses technology approximately 400 years ahead of commonly held beliefs, and that humans stand alone in the universe in their utilization of monetary systems. Since this revelation, Alex Klier has been perceived to have a strong connection with the aliens, considering that they were able to communicate with him, Gil Perez. On the night of October 24th, 1593, Spanish soldier Gil Perez fell asleep in the Philippines, and when he opened his eyes seconds later, he found himself in Mexico. When some guards found him in the wrong uniform and began to question who he was eventually placed in jail for being a deserter and servant of the devil. His claim to have come from the Philippines was disbelieved by the Mexicans until his account of the assassination of the Philippines governor, Gómez Pérez das Marinas, was corroborated by the passengers of a ship that had crossed the Pacific Ocean with the news. At the time, news of the assassination of the governor of the Philippines was still unknown to the people in Mexico City. It was only months later that news of the governor's death came to Mexico on a galleon from the Philippines. Then one of the passengers recognized Perez and said that he had seen him in the Philippines a day after the death of the governor. He was eventually released from jail by the authorities and allowed to go back home. How he got there remains a mystery, but 20th century paranormal investigators have given credence to the story and have offered teleportation and alien abduction as explanations. Billy Meyer. Billy's story may sound really confusing and different from all that you have heard, so brace up. He is a known ufologist who claims to have had several extraterrestrial encounters. For Billy, it all began in 1942 at the age of 5, when he claimed he met an elderly Plejaren man named Svath. However, after Svath died in 1953, Billy said he began communicating with an extraterrestrial woman called Asket, a communication that ended in 1964. By January 28, 1975, he met Semjase, the granddaughter of Svath, and shortly thereafter another Plejaren man called Ptaah, an encounter that increased his communication with the aliens. Based on this alleged contact, he founded a non-profit, tax-paying organization called the Freie Interessengemeinschaft für Grenz- und Geisteswissenschaften und Ufologiestudien, which means Free Community of Interest for the Border in Spiritual Sciences and Ufological Studies. While many people believe Billy's connection, some still think Billy is making up all of his claims. No matter what anyone thinks, Billy has since continued to speak about UFOs and related topics and claim connections with aliens like his family. Pharaoh Aonan. If you didn't plan to go back in time this far, we're sorry. This list would have been incomplete without Pharaoh Aonan. Undoubtedly, Akhenaten was one of the most enigmatic and mysterious pharaohs to rule over the lands of ancient Egypt, and at the same time, and is considered by many as one of the world's most revolutionary religious innovators. He ruled over the land of the pharaohs in the 18th dynasty, but his name is impossible to be erased in history. He is known for abandoning traditional Egyptian polytheism and introducing worship centered on the Aten. The Aten, commonly referred to as the sun disk, is referred to in ancient texts as a deity in the story of Sinuhe from the 12th dynasty, in which the deceased king is described as rising as a god to the heavens and uniting with the sun disk, the divine body merging with its maker. If that is not enough connection to the aliens, writings by Akhenaten state he was visited by beings that descended from the sky, who told him what he needed to do. And perhaps this is why he removed all other symbols of other gods from Egypt and implemented most of the changes he went on to do. Finally, pictures have shown him with strange-looking humans, with elongated heads and weird body shapes, which suggests that he was indeed visited by aliens from time to time. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.